T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hi, my name's Ari Flagle, and I'm fascinated with Boelens pythons. For the last 16 years, I've been traveling to the remote areas of West Papua New Guinea and Papua New Guinea, searching for this elusive snake, to study these animals in the wild, and to gain as much knowledge as we possibly can. So join me and my guests on the Boelens Python Roundtable.
I'm your host, Ari Flagle. Like, share, follow, and I have a very, very special guest coming in today. Really happy about this. It's taken me a while to convince him to do this. But I'm going to be welcoming my friend, Fredrik. And Fredrik is from Sweden and at the forefront of Boelens python breeding and just overall incredible husbandry. So Fredrik, come on.
Yeah. Hello, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course, man, of course. It's been a while. I think the last time we saw each other was in, what was it, Copenhagen or Denmark? I can't remember.
Yeah. It was in Copenhagen last autumn.
That's right. It was a quick trip, but it was as always. It's always wonderful to see you and hear what's going on with what you're doing with your animals and just life and everything like that. I know you've been super busy. You've been building a new house and all this stuff, and you've got this incredible property. I see photos of it where you're sitting out there with a beer and your feet up, and the horses are outside running in the sunset, and your kids are on the horses and everything. It just looks wonderful. So I'm just very, very happy for you. And yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course.
It takes a lot of the time.
Yeah, I was going to say, but for those of you that are watching, obviously, thank you for tuning into the second episode of the Boelens Python Roundtable, rather. And for those of you guys that do not know Fredrik, like I said briefly, Fredrik has been working with Boelens pythons for a number of years now and has successfully reproduced the species 5 times, which is a huge achievement, and has done it multiple times with the same animals, which is even more fantastic. So I'm super excited to be able to ask him a lot of questions here. We're always, when we see each other, it's usually really quick, so we get like a real quick, I have to look on my hand for all the questions I asked at that time, and usually my hand is covered with beer, so I can't remember what the questions are. So,
yeah.
So I told you I'd be very, this would be painless and enjoyable for you, because I know you're a very busy man, Fredrik. So thank you again for coming. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It was, I think it was 10 years ago since I did something like this in Morelia Python Radio.
Oh yes, that's an old name.
Yeah, and we had the Boelens Roundtable back then, and then we also had Shady Gray and Evan Wexler, and
some incredibly good friends of ours that sadly have passed, and they were part of that group of ours where we were Boelens crazy people, just talking nonstop and everything. I think just Evan was just crazy, Yeah. Chad was trying to be the balance of the group, I think. So so I want to kind of go into some of the earlier stuff with you, because I've never really talk to you about that, and I feel like that's important. When did you first kind of consider working with Boelens pythons, or what kind of drew them to you as opposed to other species, or like what was kind of the trigger that really said, hey, I really want to work with these?
Well, I started quite young, and I was working with aquariums and fishes. I was breeding some cichlids and other special looking fishes, and my sister's husband, he was going out. He was going for an advertise and buying some model airplanes. And we were getting to this address, and I was pretty bored about that hobby. So I stayed in the car, and he went into this apartment to look at these hobby planes. And then he come back out to me, and he said, "Fredrik, you got to see this. You can't believe it." So I just, what is it? No, you have to look. Come inside and meet this person. So I went inside to that apartment, and there were cages with reptiles everywhere. The whole kitchen was set up for some boa constrictors, and it was a really funny guy that had these reptiles. And I wasn't aware that you could keep these animals in captivity, and I was 17 years old by then, and I become a good friend to this guy. Kent was his name, and we were looking in this book, the Reproductive Husbandry of Pythons and Boas by Richard Ross.
Oh yes, a very, very good book.
Yeah, and we both of us looked at this picture of the Boelen and said, one day, we're going to. If we could even see one, we were happy. And that just triggered me. That was my dream species from the very beginning. But it took many years before I actually got in contact with them. And back then it was just unobtainium for me. So I was really fascinated by that.
Interesting. So when you said it was very difficult, like the obtainability of them was not easy, was that just being able to acquire animals into Sweden, or just in general, was it hard for you to find them?
Actually, I couldn't even find a green tree python, so it was really, really rare. I have never heard of anyone keeping or acquiring any Boelens back then. This was in 1992. And I just thought that I will never see one, but it was always haunted me that I want to see this species in real life. And,
so when you after that first initial, like, I guess, addiction, as we share similar, began, when did you first acquire your first animals?
It was from this guy Kent. I started with boa constrictors, and he was one of the few in Sweden back then that successfully bred emerald tree boas. And I actually got a pair from him, so I started quite early with these special species. And I started with boas, and continued from that. And
very cool. So you got your do you remember, like, what year it was when you first got your first Boelens?
Yeah, it was in 2007.
In 2007.
Yeah.
And it was a pair, or?
Yeah, I ordered a pair to the Ham Expo, and the importer was Reinhold Maug.
I was going to ask if it was Maug.
Yeah. And actually, I got this. He got the shipment to Ham, so he hadn't even unboxed I think it came through the UK and then down to Germany to his table, and we opened the box, and I got help from Paul Harris in the UK to sex them, so I really got a pair, and but they were covered with mites and and stuff like that. So, but I didn't care. I just wanted these, and and people told me before that don't acquire Boelens; they will just die. You can't breed them. Don't get them. You just waste your money. But it wasn't the money thing. okay, I'm not a rich person, but it wasn't the money thing. I just this was my goal, my dream in this hobby. But
Now,
but
when
but
you okay, Mhm.
yeah, but on the other hand, it was when you finally acquired your dream, it it also took down the excitement for the whole hobby, because now you reached what your goal was, and if you understand what I mean, it was like you come to the goal and you finished it.
Yeah. But then the next goal was to be able to breed them.
Yeah, but I was told it was impossible. I never had I just thought I should cool them down and put them together and see what happens, because I know they will copulate, but I never thought they would produce egg or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So when you got them, you said obviously they were not in the greatest condition, or was it just that they had mites on them?
No, they were great. They were feeding and everything. I just
Okay,
took
wonderful.
I just took care of the mites right away. So it was, and I think I've never had mites since then. So
So I have to ask you, how did you treat for mites in Sweden? Because I know there's so many different techniques people in captivity use with eradicating these terrible parasites. So I'm always interested on like what technique you used.
yeah, because I'm not so much into selling and buying reptiles, so I don't. As I told you, I haven't had mites since then. But back then, I first I put them in a container with water,
Mhm.
so they just could soak in water with just the heads above the surface, and that will got rid of most of the mites that just drowned and fall to the bottom of the container. And after that, I think I think I got something from Denmark or something. Nix, I think it was the name,
Okay.
if I remember it right. Something that would prevent small insects, and so that's what I will remember. But earlier, I used some pest strips and stuff like
Mhm.
that are not allowed to use anymore, at least over here.
Yeah,
So
they regulate a lot of that kind of stuff now, especially overseas. So
yeah.
interesting. So when did you like? What would you say your biggest challenges were? Raising these animals from when you got them, and like any challenges or things that you had to deal with. Because obviously you hadn't worked with the species before, so this was the first time you had acquired your dream. What
Yeah.
were your difficulties, or what were the things that you had to overcome while you were raising these animals up, even before you even thought about reproduction?
Actually, the only one I know about that had kept Boelens was another guy in Sweden, and he was importing animals to his store, and he imported some adult Boelens to his private collection. I think it was around 10 of them.
Wow.
And they obviously died, everyone, and so I didn't really have anyone to ask what I should do and how I should keep them. So I started to keep them quite hot. So and because of that, they had a problem to regurge for me when
Okay.
I was feeding them. So that was mainly my biggest issue the first years keeping them, that I couldn't get rid of the regurge problem.
So once you overcame,
Before I understood that was a temperature related thing.
so how long was it how long were you saying, would you say you were having more or less like digestion issues, for lack of a better term, from the regurgitation before was it like, a number of months? Was it a year, or obviously, or what was kind of the time frame with that?
I think I dealt with that for about 6 years or something.
Wow. And it was
Even
off and on.
Yeah, even though when they were breeding for me for the first time, still had the issue. But as 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 they were growing bigger, they could also digest larger prey. So it was always a problem with a large prey. But then I went back to smaller prey, and maybe that was maybe a good thing, raising them as well, holding back on the food and not giving them to large prey items. So
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I get asked a lot of questions when I'm in the field, like, what are wild Boelens pythons feeding on? And, the data from, wilds, dietary needs or frequency is still like an area that's like not understood. I mean, there's not, it's difficult to traverse these areas and let alone be able to stick around and watch an animal feed. So we get a lot of the data from, stomach contents from museum specimens, or if an animal is trapped by a local and it's mishandled, it'll regurgitate, and then we can see if it's a bird or a rodent or a couscous.
yeah.
But in the wild, obviously the couscous makes up a big portion of their diet, and it's a relatively large animal that can sustain them for a month at a time, probably. So that's interesting that you were getting that regurgitation behavior while offering large prey items, when they certainly are able to handle larger prey items in the wild. But it was based off of the temperature. What were the temperatures that you were keeping them at that until you changed them that were causing problems?
Yeah, I actually wrote down as I could get from Celsius to Fahrenheit. And
No, you don't have to go that route for us. I do appreciate it.
yeah, and I was keeping them in ambient temperature of 80.6 Fahrenheit during the days. And during the nights, I was keeping them around 73.4 Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And always with a hotspot at almost 88 Fahrenheit during 12 hours per day.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay, yeah. So it was warm.
yeah, and they love to bask, so you can understand that they got warm.
Yeah, they got warm very quickly. Well, did you notice with when you had them at those warmer temperatures, did you notice that their growth rate was faster, or if it changed at all?
What if
by keeping them warmer led to faster growth, or if it was anything observant at all, or if it was just the only thing you noticed was just regurgitation?
Yeah, the only thing I noticed was the regurgitation, but also one thing I've noticed now when they're getting older, that the female is getting much larger than the males. But when they were around 6 years old and I was introducing them together, I couldn't see which one was the male or the female. Otherwise, because of the pattern or something, some marks that I noticed. But the size was exact the same of the female and the males. So maybe that, I don't know. What's your experience with them, size-wise?
I've seen a lot of the similarities that you're talking about. Like, obviously, when they're still like they're younger animals, like 4 to 10. They're still like kind of growing, obviously. And I've seen females get more like heavier bodied in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're obviously not like a Burmese python or a reticulated python when I say heavy, but the females seem a little bit more fuller and more round, if that makes sense. And even when I've seen females in the wild, like sitting on eggs in a nest, that you'll come with me one of these days, I promise, that they still have that kind of a little bit larger look to them, but they're not, really like a drastically large difference. The males I've seen more kind of streamlined. They look leaner to me. So it's maybe at a certain, obviously when they become more reproductively viable or ready, to so to speak, maybe the females kind of stop that length growth and they kind of develop a larger body just to maintain the fact of, for egg development and things like that, it would be critical. So no, that's interesting. I was wondering on, like, if their growth rate increased because they were warmer, because you would think if something was warmer, it's going to be growing faster, but not Boelens pythons.
But also as I held back on the size of the praise, they didn't grow very fast. So maybe that's why I couldn't see the difference of the males and the females.
Yeah. So with your husbandry in your care, obviously when you figured out that the temperatures were obviously too warm and you corrected that, and did you see a real different change in the behavior or anything once you started doing that, aside from obviously them not regurgitating, or was there anything else?
No, not really what I can think of, but I bred them through these warm temperatures as well. So
wow, okay.
I think this we can when we will talk about these night drops. I think that was the thing that made them to breed and reproduce. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So let's go over like your basic husbandry, like, how you're setting up your enclosures. I obviously know what they look like. I remember when I went there, I was just saying your success is due to the substrate that you use and how clean and IKEA looking your cages are. But obviously that is not the answer. So, but so if you could explain like how your enclosures are, how they're set up, what are you kind of using and things like that you found that have worked and what hasn't?
Yeah. I will refer back to when I was successfully breeding them, and then I used that magic substrate, the aspen shavings.
That's right.
But the aspen shavings is really good because it keep away bad odors, and it's very easy to spot clean and see mess or stuff like that. The issue with aspen shavings is that it gets very dry, and the bellies. I noticed that the bellies, the skin on the bellies got ripped on the bellies because laying on this dry surface. So I added a humidifier to the room.
Okay.
And as long as I had that on full effect, they were shedding properly.
So you weren't spraying the animals physically. You were using the room as your humidity to.
I started spraying the animals, but I noticed that they didn't like it, and they did. And in my experience, they do not like to lay on the wet surface either. So they stay away from that. And but after these successful years, and these years was through 2013 to 2017, I tried a lot of different things after that, and I have not been successful since then. But I think that's about some other reasons.
So we'll call the period from 2013 to 2017 the golden years.
Yeah. In my case, yeah.
In your case, yes.
But I was also living in another house back then, so
yeah. I remember your snake room was smaller because I remember seeing it and thinking I was like, wow, this is where it's going on. This is what's and I was like, wow, I was expecting something larger in comparison, but it was very like, how do I describe it? It was like just very fine tuned. That was one thing that I recommend. Like I remember specifically when I walked in there, and you had those first babies too.
Yeah, exactly. But you have a family and everything. You can't occupy the whole house.
Yeah.
So, but you should see my snake house now in my new house.
Yeah, I plan to next year. I'm going to try to come back out and visit and see that. So, with what do you think, in your opinion, are the most critical factors in keeping Boelens pythons? Not just reproduction, but just keeping them happy and healthy and long term.
Well, I think not overfeeding them. Do not keep them too hot, because if they get too warm for too long periods of time, I think they get stressed about it. and obviously the regurg issue, and but otherwise than that, I am not. I think that's about it for me.
Okay, so that's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. What is your feeding frequency with your animals? Can you like describe, like, with obviously with the babies and then into adult animals, like does the frequency change? Obviously the size of the prey item will change because you've got a smaller animal versus a larger animal, but what is your feeding regimen for babies and adults?
When I was growing them up, I fed them about every 10th day, and the adults I feed about every 3rd week.
Okay.
And but I don't have a calendar or something like that. I just feel like I think it's gone 3 weeks now, and they look really eager to eat. So then I offer something. So it's just by the feel.
Yeah. Now, are you able to? I don't know the industry, so to speak, in Sweden as far as like reptile keepers. Like, do you have access to like food sources for snakes and things like that too, or do you have to have things shipped in, or are you raising it yourself? Or
the problem is we had a few breeders of rats and mouse here in Sweden, but they got a visit from the activists that released all the animals and stuff like that. So there's not many people that would like to breed rats or mice, and the ones who do that, they keep it quite silent.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But on the other hand, then people need to order the food sources from other countries where they have even worse.
Wow.
They have in Sweden people are quite good to keep animals in a good way, and there's a lot of restrictions and laws and stuff like that. And now people order from other countries that do not have these laws or restrictions. So I don't think it was a good thing. So but I have also tried to get quails, and that seems to be very hard to find in Sweden.
Really? I was going to ask if you're able to do like quail or small chicks or anything like that. But that surprises me that it's hard to find quail in Sweden. I would have think people would, because we eat them in Texas. I mean, why wouldn't you eat them in Sweden,
Yeah, but maybe I'm too, what do you say? When I call to ask to buy some quails, I tell them what I should use them for, and they don't want to sell them to me.
Oh, okay, that's gotcha.
So there's no one producing quails for reptile food. There's no industry like that.
Okay. So with the with your prey items that you do when you do offer and stuff like that, are you adding any kind of supplementation in them at all, or are you predominantly just feeding animals straight from, whether they're live or whether they're pre-killed or if they're frozen thawed or something like that? I don't know if it's different there, or if you've tried that at all.
I buy them frozen and I thaw them up, and sometimes I add some vitamins like calcium and I don't know, vitamin D or something like that. I don't know, but I used some vitamins called Reptinet, I think.
Reptin, I know which one you're talking about. Yes, and it has the frilled lizard on the bottle.
Yeah, exactly, that one. Yeah,
Necton Rep.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. That's the one.
Yeah, that one's been around for a long time. That's a good one. So are you doing that for both the male and the female, or are you doing that just for the female, or?
I have done it for both, but I'm not always using it. But sometimes I add it to the food. And,
okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I know. I've spoken to some private keepers in the U.S. that work with different species. Obviously, not Boelens. They're doing stuff like the Drymarchon, like the indigos, and the cribos and stuff. And I know some of those keepers do like kind of like vitamin supplementation. And they'll mix up these like pills with them, and they'll put them in the rodent to offer for different times of the year, like a seasonal thing. And they've had they say they've had good success. Obviously, they haven't had anything negative because of it. It's just additional vitamins. So that's why I was wondering if you've noticed any of that, possibly playing a critical, not factor, but a critical point in your husbandry. Not to say that they're not getting everything they need from the rodent, but just something else,
Well, I have not noticed any difference. It's just I just give the supplement on occasions and hope they will help we do something.
Yeah.
And also with UV lightning, I didn't use UV lightning from the beginning, and not even when I bred them.
Wow.
So that's something I've added in the last few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think the UV lighting? I mean, obviously, you were able to breed them successfully without having the UV lighting on there, and then have you bred them after you've added UV as well, or not yet?
Well, yeah. I think yes. I think I have, because well, actually, I had. If I remember correctly, I had UV lighting from the beginning, but I think they were about, the linear bulbs were about 3 or 4 or 5 years old. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they didn't produce any UV, and then I changed them later, but I don't really remember when I did it, and so on. But I have no additional hotspot with UV lighting or a floodlight or something like that produce UV. So.
Do you have access in Sweden to good reptile products as far as for UV and heating, or what kind of bulbs are you using?
Yeah, actually, there's a big market for those kind of things here, because everyone wants the best stuff and the best thing for the animals. So that's not a problem. And I used many different types of UV bulbs, but I usually just go for the ones for the hotspot, and those do not produce any UV. So I use all the common names, Zoomed, Exoterra, and stuff like that.
Okay. Do you try any of the Arcadia stuff as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's really interesting, because I don't know, like the accessibility in the U.S. on a lot of things, many things is greater than other places in the world as far as being able to get products for stuff, because in the U.S. obviously we have such a huge animal market here. So they're constantly putting out new things. So I didn't know how difficult it was for you to acquire, quality products, let alone just regular something for reptiles. Because I know for years and years and years, there was very limited products that were specifically made for reptiles. Like, Vitalite was the big one, and things like that. But so with your successes, because in my opinion, your prior successes have been remarkable. I mean, I really, it just really is mind blowing to me. Not that you're not, not just, it's just for what it is. I mean, you were producing these animals pretty consistently, and with, it seemed like very minimal effort on your part, because you're just so good, I guess.
No, actually, I thought for a while that this was the easiest species to breed that I've ever had.
Just like, no.
But I still think I have produced more babies than anyone else. I'm not sure if Scott Flood has catching up now, but
I think Scott's trying to. Scott's been doing some great stuff. I'm excited to see what he's been doing, and I remember, because I had imported like one of your first clutches of babies into the US. And I remember I got to see those, and I was like, oh my God, these are Fredrik. Even your box and everything you shipped him in was so fancy. It was like, so sweet, so European,
I got a lot of comments about that box. I made it by myself, and
it was very nice.
Yeah, I had some temperature meters and everything on the box, and
I
inside,
remember that you
outside,
had
and yeah,
those little data controllers in there and
yeah,
everything, and all that. No, it was quite a remarkable situation when those came in, and I remember seeing them when you had them, which was even more incredible, and then just the consistency with it. Now, was it with those? Were you breeding with mostly the same individual animals, or were you using different animals in your group?
actually, in 2013, when I got the first clutch, I only had one pair,
Okay. Wow.
and I didn't have a nest box, and I introduced the male to the female and the female to the male. I kept them separate, but I introduced them together to each other, and yeah, that was what I did. I think the whole thing was the that I got the correct night drops and the correct timing. That I think a lot of people are asking me, oh, do you use combustion chambers or something like that, or
Mhm.
special heated nesting boxes? And actually, I have tried a lot of things after my success, but I've never been as successful as when I was doing everything easy.
Really? So, okay,
Yeah.
so for everybody that's listening, can you walk us through what your process was for your success to the best of your recollection?
Yeah, actually, my good friend Per was breeding diamond pythons at
Mhm.
the moment. So I was asking him how he did, and I tried to replicate what he did. And the advantage I had in that house was because this room was laying next to my garage,
Okay.
and the garage I shut off all the heating in the garage. The garage was inside the house, and this was a ground floor, so it was quite cold in this basement, and the garage was laying next to the reptile room. And what I did was I I had some heat in the reptile room during the days,
Okay.
uh, but during the nights I opened the door, and then I had a small hall that was going to the garage, and I opened the garage, and all the cold air from the garage came into the reptile room.
Okay.
And I did this every night during the whole cooling down process.
When did your cycle start?
I usually I start in November and try to lower the temps quite slow,
Okay.
because these have so much longer reproduction time than for I have also bred carpet pythons, but the process is much faster from
Yeah.
breeding to egg laying to hatching. So this process is much longer. So if I start to lower the temps in November, I start to introduce them in January.
Okay.
So, and I keep them cooled down during January and into February. I think in March I slowly raise the temps up to back to normal again.
Okay. Now, when you said the temperatures, like so how what was your target temperature essentially, or what was your temperature that your room was getting to that was part of your breeding cycle?
Yeah. When I was cooling down, you mean?
Yeah. When you were cooling down, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Because I kept the garage in 50 Fahrenheit.
Okay.
So I even got a little bit lower than that, but my aim was 50 Fahrenheit at night, and
Okay.
I think I dropped to 50 Fahrenheit for about 3 months, I think,
Okay.
if I remember correctly. I didn't write down all the data, but that was what my friend was doing with the diamond pythons. So I tried to replicate what he did, because I thought that these snakes were pretty similar.
Yeah.
And yeah, that worked for me, for getting the first clutch with just one pair of Boelens. No
And
extra
so,
mates or anything like that.
yeah. So, okay. So you were, to recap, so you were letting your your snake room get down to in the low 50s Fahrenheit for roughly 3 months, and then during that time you were basically putting a male with the female, putting the female with the male, vice versa.
Yeah.
During that time, were you feeding it all during that cycle, or?
Yeah, I offered a small prey item every now and then. Just I don't know why I did that, because I didn't do that when I'm breeding carpets and stuff like that, because the male stopped feeding. But both the female and the male, they fed during the whole time. So I fed them much lesser, but I did continue feeding them.
Now, with your humidity in your room, because I remember seeing your humidifier in your smaller snake room at that time, were you still maintaining humidity levels through that cycle as well?
Yeah. I still use the humidifier, but the air temperature gets much drier in those cold temperatures and during the winter. So it's hard to get like it is at the summer. But yes, I still use the humidifier.
Do you remember what your humidity was in your that they were being exposed to roughly?
I think it was between 50 and 70%.
Okay, yeah, that seems pretty accurate with some of the stuff I've seen in the wild too. Like depending on the area where they're at. It's really interesting that it was done with a single pair also. Because I know there's a lot of work being done now with multiple animals as like a numbers game where you're just rotating various different males with a single female. So I'm wondering, do you have an idea as to why you think it worked with just the single? I mean, it's a crazy question, but why you think it worked with the single pair as opposed to having multiple animals that you're using? I mean, if you had multiple animals, would you have been doing different males to a single female, or just keep a simple pair?
I think maybe I had a pair that was really compatible to each other. I don't know, but I have always thought it was the temperature that did the whole thing. But I was quite surprised because I didn't have any nest box or anything ready, and she started to ovulate, and that was when I started to join your Facebook group, and I was putting up some pictures, and I know a lot of people think they have gravid females, but I was so sure that there was something going on here, and at the same time, I contacted a friend in Sweden that he was putting down his hobby and getting rid of all his animals, and he had the other pair that we imported at the same time.
Okay.
So I contacted him. I didn't say I had eggs on the way because I didn't want to spoil anything. I didn't want to jinx anything. So I told him, "Do you still have this pair for sale?" And he told me, "Yes, I have it." So I went to his place and bought that pair. And then I had two pairs for the next breeding season.
So when the moment that you saw the eggs, can you describe just your feeling? Like, this was obviously your dream species that you never thought you were going to acquire. You get a pair, you're raising them up, you're breeding them because apparently they're the easiest python to breed in your hands. And you walk down into your snake room and you see the female, because I believe she was underneath a piece of like cork flat, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And actually, I saw it in the morning that she was laying egg, and I saw that she wasn't ready yet, and I stayed for quite some time, but she delivered the eggs very slowly. And the eggs are quite huge, and it seems like a struggle for her to release the eggs from. And then I'm so focused at my work, so I went to work. And I thought the whole day, but what the hell did I do? Why did I go to work? I should stay home and just watch her. And then I come back home and I just ran into the room, and I think she was just ready. I think she had been pushing those eggs during several hours. I think that took time. She was exhausted, and I just felt that she had just laid them. So I'm not sure how long it took, but I'm pretty sure it took several hours for her to just lay the eggs.
Yeah.
And I also think
what was the size of the clutch?
I got 10 eggs, but only 4 were fertile, so there were some slugs in it as well.
Okay. So with the 10 eggs, how did you set them up? Because I know that there's been some issues for whatever reason with successful incubation, also with Boelens eggs. Some people have just had some issues.
Yeah, and I have a lot of people have been contacting me a lot of people, those who have had eggs have contacting me. We have discussed about that. And what I did was I was so sure that I was going to get eggs, so I also ordered a hot box incubator from the USA.
Nice.
And and I got it shipped to my place, and I set it up before she was laying eggs. And I just had some small plastic containers where I was putting in some perlite and or maybe vermiculite I used the first time. And I had some some raster, some net, the plastic net you lay on the vermiculite.
Yeah.
And I placed those 4 eggs, and I had a small ventilation hole on this box because I didn't want them to mold or anything like that. So I had a small ventilation hole.
Okay.
And just after a couple of weeks, I think it was 2 weeks or something, they started to dimple and get dry.
Okay.
So I got really worried, and so I closed the small ventilation hole. And then pretty fast they got back to round and normal again.
Okay.
So they seem to be very, very sensitive to get dry.
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard issues where people are having problems with too much humidity and then obviously not enough. What was the temperature that you were incubating?
But I also when I when I was covered the ventilation hole, I was also maybe one time per day, but I was opening the lid just fast and then put it back together again, so it wasn't completely sealed for the whole time.
So you're giving oxygen exchange to allow fresh air to come in and then seal it back up.
Yeah. And I had some mold on one side that I just took away with some paper. So
okay, did you do that same technique where you're opening the containers and closing the containers when you started having more success?
Yeah, I continued to do so, but I always had a completely sealed lid.
Okay. Yeah. What were the temperatures that you incubated your eggs at?
I tried to incubate them at 88.7 Fahrenheit.
Okay.
That's about 31.5 Celsius, and I kept that temperature during the whole process. And if I remember right, I think they hatched about after 80 or 82 days or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think I remember. That sounds familiar because I'm trying to think when you were doing it and stuff. Now, when you were you maintained that same temperature of incubation through all the other clutches as well, right? You didn't change them.
No, this actually I just practiced this on the first clutch because I had some issues when they were hatching. That all of the 4 babies had large umbilical cords attached to their body, and I thought, well, maybe this clutch was the fastest one at 78 days. I don't remember. I have to go back and check some stuff, but maybe this was on 78 days. So I was thinking, because I had quite high temperatures during the incubation, I think they hatched too fast, and they didn't have absorbed all the umbilical cord and stuff like that. So I put them on some wet papers, and after the first shed, it was all gone and they looked perfect.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Now, so do you think maybe they could go cooler as far as incubation wise for a slower incubation?
Yeah. I actually uh, in the other clutches I produced, then I lowered the temperature to 86.9 Fahrenheit, and that's
Okay,
about 30.5 Celsius.
interesting.
So
Yeah, because I go ahead.
yeah.
No,
Go ahead.
because I know on eggs that I've come across in the wild where females are brooding the eggs or incubating the eggs, I've taken surface temperatures, obviously, of the nest chamber, but I've also taken surface temperatures of the eggs themselves, and some of them are like sitting around like I don't know anywhere from like 76 to 78 degrees at certain portions of the day, and then I'll take the temps again, and they'll be up to like 82 or something like that, where I can only attribute it to the female, regulating the temps by twitching or whatnot, doing that. So, but it's always funny too because they always look like marshmallows too when they're in the wild, as opposed to these big round eggs, that we see in captivity. But so, if you were going to give any keepers that are working with Boelens, any advice, what would you say for them to like avoid things they should avoid while they're trying to breed the species, in your opinion?
Yeah, because after these successful breeding years, I moved to a new house, and we had a smaller room, and during the whole day, the sun was lightning on that side of the house, so that room got very warm, and the animals got stressed. So I think that's why I didn't have any success at all at that place, because I had a hard time to lower the temperatures, the ambient temperatures.
Okay.
And we have had really hot summers here during the last 5, 6, 7 years or something, extremely hot summers that we are not used to. And I noticed that the animals got stressed, they regurged and stuff like that. So that's my advice: not to keep them too warm.
Well, that's good advice.
Yeah.
And as far as just keeping them, not even considering reproduction, I mean, obviously people are going to be getting them because they want to attempt to reproduce them down the road. What kind of advice, or what would you say to one of the biggest things that comes into your mind of things to avoid while raising your animals and, just keeping them?
The basic things like do not overfeed them, keep them in the right temperatures, and also when you acquire animals, you have to quarantine them, and I would also recommend to do virus tests, because I have come across animals that are infected in nidovirus, and it seems more common than we think, because Boelens with nidovirus will act normal and feed normal. Some will show some signs of coughing or smearing some saliva on the windows or something like that, but some just appears really normal. And I've been contacted by people that are asking me questions, and they have noticed something, and I say, test them, send in a virus test, and then get back to me, and they have nidovirus. So
it's that the nido and just quarantining is a huge thing that I think is so important with keeping the species, not just Boelens, but with anything. And I think a lot of people are afraid to check because they don't want to find out that their animal is infected, because then it's like, what do you do now? It's like, I know, and I've raised animals that were nido positive, that maintained a decent life, for a certain amount of time. So it's not impossible. However, it can just kind of be a difficult avenue to deal with in that kind of aspect. But it's so important because you don't want to expose anything else, or your animals could be already stressed out from having that. So why try to put them through the stress of trying to breed or whatnot too? It's just my kind of thought on it. What do you think? How do you see captive breeding projects contributing to conservation for these snakes? What's your opinion on that?
Well, obviously, if we breed more in captivity, we can keep the wild animals to stay in the wild.
Yeah.
So I think that's my main goal, to just not to keep these fantastic animals, but also reproduce them. So I'm actually not a reptile breeder in that way, that I breed reptiles every year. I only try to breed my Boelens, and if I don't breed them, I don't care, because that's not my main thing. But with the Boelens, I really think we should need to reproduce them in captivity.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Do you feel like that? How do you say? Like, what are your thoughts on the role of private collections, like hobbyists like us, versus zoos, kind of safeguarding the species? Do you feel like it's because in a lot of ways I feel like it's almost up to us, because zoos have so many regulations and formats for what they're doing, that they're not really giving attention to other things that are just really close about for us to be missing, kind of like in that. Do you have any kind of idea on that, or a thought on that, or?
Well, I think the private collectors, I think they are more accurate. They are more they put more time into the animals. They check the animals more often. I think they play a big role in just like me. I started to breed Boelens, and I got contacted by zoos that I tried for many years, and they were asking me how I do it, but because I think we need the private breeders as well, because I think yeah. I don't really know how to answer that question, but
No, I think I mean it's because I know a lot of times the zoos are, I hate to use the word against private keepers, but it's like I feel like our private keepers are benefiting these animals in a lot of ways better than a lot of the zoos are, because we're going beyond the means, and trying to do everything and anything we can for our captives, as opposed to the zoos, where they have specific conservation programs in place. And a lot of times, in the zoo world, I've been in the zoo world, that animals that are furry pets get precedence over animals that have scales in a lot of ways. Obviously, there are a lot of reptile related conservation projects. However, we can't give every one of them, attention. But I think a lot of the future, a lot of our animals, and especially species like this, are really going to depend on the private sector, I think, for, kind of basically safeguarding the species, so to speak.
I think also, the employees at the larger zoos, they're not as dedicated as you are in specific species, and they do what they're going to do, but you can see so much more because you are really into these species, and I think that plays a big role.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of an interesting thing. So as we're kind of closing down this interview that you were so nervous about giving for me, I have some interesting questions I want to ask you. So, for one, what was the proudest moment working with these snakes that you can remember?
Yeah, the proudest moment is to breed them and to get eggs and the clutches. But I also won the Reptile Report's Python Breeder of the Year in 2014.
Yes.
Both the readers and editors' choice, and that was quite big for me in Sweden, to win the awards in the USA, and that was I got really proud of that one.
Yes. I'm sure you had to beef up a lot of your Swedish security going to public places. Also, right? What was the most surprising behavior you've ever observed with this species?
There was this was quite a few years ago when we were discussing it back then. I have not noticed it anymore, but you know the mysterious blood stains some people
Yes.
have on the walls.
Yes.
And I have also heard that about Macklot's pythons, and but maybe not the stains, but more the smearing of blood or something. I'm not really
Yeah.
sure where it comes from, but I have seen it, and a friend of mine has seen it as well. Just blood stains sprayed on the wall
What do you
inside
think
the
it
cage.
is? Do you have an idea what you think it might be?
It must be something from the cloaca or something. It looks like it's been sprayed.
Yeah.
So it's not smeared, just sprayed stains.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've heard it in a couple other species as well. And then, I believe you had sent me some photos that I published of that behavior, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing. I'm not sure what it has to do with anything, or if it's beneficial, or if it's just coincidence. But so for my last question, if you could sum up your journey with this species in one sentence, what would it be?
Well, follow your dreams and goals.
Nice. I can appreciate that. So I have to say thank you so much, Fredrik, for coming on. We've been friends for, gosh, I can't even remember how many years. I always enjoy listening to you talk. I love seeing your passion for that. I love seeing your dedication for the species, and what you're doing is just fantastic. I look forward to when your animals start reproducing again for you, because I'm not sure. I know for a fact it's not going to be if, it's just going to be when. I'm just very, very proud to call you a friend, and thank you for coming on, and thank you for doing what you do. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and looking forward to meet you in November and to see.
Yeah, I'm gonna take some good barbecue. I might even have the scrub shepherd come out, to see you as well.
Yeah,
we can have a meet and greet for Fredrik, but no, it'll be fun. We picked the best time of the year to come out.
I'm looking forward to see Reptilandia.
Yes. I'm looking forward to walking around it with you. So, anyways, thank you so much, man. Have a wonderful night. I know we're at like a 7 or 8 hour difference, so you probably had a long day. So I really appreciate it, man, and thank you so much. We'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
All right. And thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, like, share, follow, and we'll see you next time.